Greetings and welcome to another Arts Across America presented by Sankofa.org and the Kennedy Center. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the ancestors, all those who came before us, who paved a way for us to be here today, our Native and Indigenous brothers and sisters, our African ancestors. Peace and blessings to everyone. My name is Gina Belafonte. I'm an artivist and the executive director of Sankofa.org. Sankofa.org is a nonprofit organization co-founded by my father, Harry Belafonte, and myself, along with Raul Roach. We educate, motivate, and activate artists and allies in service of grassroots movements and equitable change. We use the arts as a tool to engage the public. The Kennedy Center is working with Sankofa.org to curate performances from geodiverse locations across the country to uplift and tell the story of their communities in the time of coronavirus. Arts Across America seeks to utilize the Kennedy Center's digital platforms and partnerships with community organizations to connect and uplift the stories and art of communities from across the country, while also providing much needed support to artists. Arts Across America performances featured visionary cultural curators, artists, and workers using their power and agency to transform their community and thus the world. This is as much a celebration of the community that surrounds the artist as it is about the art itself. Sankofa is honored to partner with the Kennedy Center, and today we have in studio my dear friend and amazing artist, Aloe Blacc. Raised on salsa, merengue, and cumbia, Blacc fell in love with hip hop as a kid and started writing rap songs when he was 9. With his lyrics drawing influence from socially conscious artists like KRS-One, he put out his first hip hop mixtape at age 17. Hey, Aloe, welcome to Arts Across America.
Hi, Gina, thank you so much.
So excited for this segment today. You are a dear friend, and I'm lucky to have you as a dear friend, but I'm also happy that I can share you with the rest of the Arts Across America community so they can learn more about who you are and what you're doing and what you've been up to. I know you've got some new music that you have coming out, and also you've been so much a part of the struggle and the movement and contributing your artistry to that. So are you going to sing us a song to start?
Let's do that.
Okay. Awesome.
The first song I'll sing for you is called Wake Me Up. It's a song about hope. It's a song about nostalgia. Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. Well, I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream, and life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes. Well, that's fine by me. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. I tried carrying the weight of the world, but I only have 2 hands. I hope I get the chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. Wish that I could stay forever this young, not afraid to close my eyes. Well, life's a game made for everyone, and love is the prize. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. 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 So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost.
Oh, my Lord, my Lord. That is such a great song. I love that song. I play it all the time. And of course, I want to get into a little bit of the origins of that song, because I think it was an interesting way that you partnered with a really famous DJ on it at first. And also, I think that just that line, I didn't know I was lost. I feel, especially at this time that we're going through, I think there's a lot of people who are feeling lost and feeling disconnected. And, I just think it's such a beautiful lyric. So can you tell us, say again?
Yeah, no, I was going to tell you the way that the song came about.
Yeah.
The first lyric in the chorus is "Wake me up when it's all over," which is a phrase that we've probably all used at some point, or we've heard. And
especially now.
To the development in my career, coming from the relative obscurity of an independent artist to, massive global awareness because of the music that was coming out with "I Need a Dollar." And so I had this pinch me moment, wake me up when it's all over. My life is completely different. But the second line, all this time I was finding myself, I didn't know I was lost, is one of the sentiments that speaks to growing into becoming mature, becoming self-aware, and um, understanding where what my stance is, and where I'm positioned on in my life on certain issues, and um, politically, socially, personally, artistically. All this time I was finding myself, didn't know I was lost.
Mm,
And and you don't, when you're young, you don't know. You don't
right.
know that you're finding yourself, so to speak. You're just living life, and if you're lucky, you've got means. And your family is um, doing well enough that you don't have to process survival.
Yeah.
But a lot of us are just engaged in survival,
Yep.
so you don't have time to self-reflect and think about where you are in life, uh, psychologically, mentally, just kind of grabbing life by the seat of your pants, and just trying to hold on. And
Yeah.
and when I had the opportunity to stop, um, to stop and reflect,
Hmm.
and I was no longer just, oh, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to go to the grocery store this week? I had a chance to reflect, realize all this time I was finding myself, didn't know I was lost.
Mm.
Now I know. Now I've got a moment where I can be aware of who I am and what I'm up to and what my purpose is. And found my purpose in of course my passion, which is music, but also through the artivism, using my voice
Hmm.
for some positive social transformation.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, when we're in circumstances that are feeling uncomfortable, or when we feel desperate, it's interesting if we have the opportunity to get through it to the other side, and to understand more deeply what we learn about ourselves, and what we can, and how much wiser we become for having some of those experiences, even in the moment when it feels horrible. And I feel like this is a moment in time where many people, because of coronavirus, in some ways have gone in and have begun the journey of identifying and sort of deeper consciousness and a deeper awareness. And in some ways, they must be saying that to themselves too. I didn't know I was lost, you know. But we discover sometimes we're lost as we become more conscious, you know, in our lives. And I just think that song is really beautiful. And I also really appreciate the video that you did, highlighting immigration issues and migration and some of our neighbors who have come to find solace here in the United States, but are feeling very much rejected and turned away. And I really appreciate that. And I encourage all of our listeners to go out and check out the video.
So that was for me a personal story. My parents are from Panama, so I'm first generation American. The story of immigration and the relationship with immigrants is very personal. And this song that I did not expect to be a massive hit, I just knew it felt good when we recorded it, ultimately took the world by storm, and I felt compelled to use the popularity of the song to humanize the story of
Mhm.
it wasn't
Right.
just the story of immigrants in the US, although that's what I depicted in the music video. At the same time, there were immigrants and refugees fleeing um, war in Syria and moving toward Europe for refuge.
Right.
And there's the story of immigration all across the country at all times. People are always moving.
That's right.
And I wanted to use this video, this massive song, to make a video to humanize the story of immigrants and migrants, people who are really looking for better opportunities on this beautiful earth that, you know, powers have divided up into borders and nations and territories that Mother Earth never intended.
Right.
And
Yeah, I know that. Well, I was, and I still am part of an interdependence movement and the World Human Forum that also talks often about getting rid of borders and getting rid of these, you know, constructs that divide us. So I want to shift over to a little bit of the music side of things and talk a little bit about the actual origins also of how the song got made. I don't know if you want to talk about that or
yeah,
not. I
no,
mean, I know
sure,
you were
absolutely.
on a plane and you had the lyric and you happened to be sitting next to, was it Avicii?
No, no. So
No.
what the Avicii was the I was introduced to Avicii through the record label.
Okay.
I started the lyric um, while I was literally, yeah, I was on an airplane. I was being treated really, really well by
Hmm.
um, a corporate client who had hired me to do a private gig, and I was just reflecting on that the difference. I call it schizophrenic toying, going from like, you know, uh, six people crammed into a five-seater car trying to get to a gig, sleeping head to toe on motel beds to
Hmm.
first class everything and five-star everything. And it was literally a pinch me moment. I just wrote "Wake Me Up When It's All Over," and then I started writing a bunch of other couplets that felt like interesting and strong statements. All this time, I was finding myself didn't know I was lost, and I keep all these notes in my phone and bring them to sessions when I feel like it's I can use them. And I never want to walk into a recording session empty-handed. And I had this great opportunity to work with Avicii. He had a hit already with a song called Levels, and he was familiar with my music from the soul album that I had released called Good Things. And the one hit that was on there was I Need a Dollar. And he was asking for an artist who could do some sort of soul music um, on his instrumentation. And we ended up getting into the studio and working on a few different things. But then there was this moment where I was booked to go in the studio with him, and he was booked to be in the studio with someone else at the same time. Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe it was intended to be that way. But ultimately,
Universe.
Mike
Universe
Einziger
is coming
was the
through.
other individual.
Ah,
He's a
amazing.
brilliant musician. He's a guitarist and vocalist and in the band called Incubus. So he said, "It's all good. Let's all just work on a song together." And
Amazing.
I thought, great, I'm going to bring these really powerful lyrics that I think should mean something in this session. Who knows what's going to happen, but maybe they have a completely other idea. We'll work on something else. But again, you can't walk in empty handed. And when I got to the studio, Mike and Tim had already begun working on this guitar part and chord progression. And I came in and I shared these lyrics, and they thought it sounded perfect. And we recorded an acoustic demo that night. And within a short time, it could have been two days, Tim had recorded and created an entire
Mm.
electronic dance music landscape around this acoustic version. And we, I knew it was special, but I didn't know it was take over the world special. We performed it for the very first time in front of a live audience at the music festival, Ultra Music Festival in Miami, and we had super lukewarm reception. I was looking at the audience as I was singing, thinking these people aren't having a good time.
Oh no.
And turns out, you know, they were just trying to process. They were just trying to figure out, why is there a singer on stage and not a bunch of laser beams and pyro and smoke. And
Yeah,
like I
well, I
said,
mean, many a person at Coachella when that was played by the DJs, just at when they were doing their own sets. Um, I know that for a lot of people, some people heard the song first through that kind of experience, and then you re-released it, with just your sort of your own take on it with that other beautiful video, and it was like, oh, that's the artist who did that song. A lot of people were having that kind of, oh, that's who that was. I think that's kind of cool in a way. But that sort of leads me a little bit to, another thing I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, certainly I want to talk to you a bit about sort of the origins of how you began your career, because I do know that you were heavily influenced by hip hop, and we'll get into that. You had a whole rap and hip hop career. Well, all of it is hip hop as far as I'm concerned, but you had an intense rap career for a minute there. But talk to me a little bit about freedom of speech, because I know that you worked very hard for a bit on artists' rights and freedom of speech. And I know that there was some sort of industry insider stuff that happened with the song as it relates to its collaborators, and then you realized that you had your own power and you used it. Yeah.
there at the time that Wake Me Up became massive, the music industry was making this transition from physical distributed product, vinyl and cassettes and CDs, really mainly CDs, and even making the transition from digital downloads to almost a completely streaming based industry.
Hmm.
And um, there was a huge debate about how the pie was being divided to people who write the songs versus the people who control the recordings, namely the record labels. Um, and I thought I'd join in and have a big conversation, be part of the conversation, because at the time Wake Me Up was one of the biggest songs in the world, and so we could see in real time how the effect of the streaming um, distribution of payments was affecting artists. And I've always been, one to say that songs start with the writing. It starts with the kernel of a lyric and melody, and without that, you don't get the song. You may have a composition, an instrumental,
Right.
but what we're dealing with here largely, that the music that makes the whole entire industry move, is lyric based music. And so when I learned that the songwriters are undercut by the the rights holders of the recordings by one to 14, so
Mm.
the publishers and the songwriters only get 1/14 of the um, of the pie, I felt slighted. I thought, but this is the song. This is the
Right.
real basis of the copyright of the material of the value,
Hmm.
and this is what is immutable. You can color it in many different ways. You can make it a reggae version. You can make it a, a salsa version. You can make it a rock version, but you can't change the lyric and the melody. 'Cause that's what the song is. And so I thought I'd be part of this fight and have a say. I put out uh, an op-ed piece
Hmm.
in Wired about it, about that disparity between the
Hmm. Hmm.
songwriters and the recording the recording holders, and also spoke to Congress about the disparity in this digital era of how there are some things that need to be changed in terms of how the the payments are distributed,
Right. I think
especially
there's still,
songwriters who, at the end of the day, um,
right,
don't get to stand on stage and make that money from touring all the
right,
time.
right,
I'm
right.
in a privileged position because I'm a songwriter and an
And a
artist,
performer, yeah.
performer, so I get to tour and make the live money, but the songwriters are often just
Yeah.
waiting for that distribution from the stream.
Right. And that's really, really important for people to understand that because a lot of people don't understand, the dynamics of like who gets a piece of the pie and how that works. And I think even today, with all the shifts and changes that are going on in just about every industry at this point over the last 6 months, but especially in the music industry over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's been this sort of ongoing struggle. And then I think of also just in the very early days, of like, my father rarely wrote music. And I think he saw the problems and the issues. I don't think that's why he didn't write more, but I think, many of his colleagues, they didn't have the rights to their music.
Mm,
And so a lot of folks have been fighting that good fight for a long time. And I'm glad that you stepped up as well to do that. But let's talk a little bit about the origins. I mean, you were heavily influenced in hip hop, and the politics of the movement and rap music in the late 80s and 90s, and that heavily influenced you. And that era was just so pro-black and so pro-blackness. My father was the one of the lead producers with David Picker on Beat Street. A lot of people don't know that, and Beat Street was one of those movies, that came out very early, that helped to popularize and mainstream, in some ways, hip hop. But a lot of the people who performed there and were participants of that film were the originators: Cool Herc, Melly Mel, Dougie Fresh. A lot of folks that came out of that early sort of
and not
town
not
crier
just from the
space.
not just from the rapping side, Crazy Legs and the whole
Yep,
Rock
that's
City
right.
crew.
All the whole, all the dance crews. Um, So I'm just wondering just about like if you want to talk a little bit about those origins. I wish we had a little clip of some of your early. Listen, I encourage everyone who's listening to Google Aloe Blacc rap and look at some of those early videos. They're fabulous. They're amazing.
Yeah,
But it's just changed. It's changed so much.
it has changed. I started making hip hop music in this era of Afrocentrism, where Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul and
Yes.
Black Sheep had a crew called Native Tongues. I named my artist name, my stage name, Aloe Blacc, because I always felt like I wanted to be part of that pro black hip hop movement. Those guys were all the way on the East Coast. I grew up in Southern California, so and I was probably 10 years removed in age. So my dream was a long shot, but I ended up getting into the music nonetheless,
Hmm.
writing lyrics, getting uh, connected with a producer DJ called Exile here in Southern California, and we started making music together, recording and writing and performing locally. But there was this education that I got from listening to KRS One and Public Enemy, recognizing that I could use these lyrics, I could use my voice to educate and to discuss, social topics and issues, um, you know, X Clan and Rakim.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of really talented and brave artists who would put socially conscious material into the airwaves and on their albums, um, without thinking about, a backlash for being political.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, thinking about like Marvin Gaye when he put together What's Going On, the record label didn't put it out, didn't want to put it out at first. They were
Right,
like, nobody
right,
wants to hear political
right.
music. And so there's always been this challenge with Black artists about whether or not to um, go political or just do the song and dance. And, you know, I, I, I feel like for me, I was lucky to jump into the game during that era where it was totally um, of mode to just be
Mm-hmm.
political with your
Mm-hmm.
lyrics.
Yeah, it's so great. We were talking also a little bit about the way in which hip hop has now shifted. It shifted for a very long time into a very sort of capitalist space, and the lyrics were and have been, um, and I think the culture in some ways as well, shifted to a lot of misogyny and shifted to a lot of capitalistic messages. And in some ways, it was still speaking to the issues of the block and the neighborhood, but it was highlighting certain aspects of it that, or glorifying it in a way. And I'm just wondering whose idea that really was. I know that there was a lot of, gang related participation in the hip hop movement. And so there was a lot of, you know, inner city conflicts going on, West Coast, East Coast, all that kind of stuff. But, we put so many parameters on what is okay to say and to not say. And I found it very interesting that, and I still do find it very interesting that somehow it's been okay for a very long time for the Black community in particular to represent itself in a way that is so traumatizing,
Yeah,
and
I think this discussion has has been really testing me as an
mhm,
artist. I'm all about freedom of speech. As a father, I'm all about appropriate time and place.
mhm,
Um, I think about the access that young people and anyone really has to certain messages and being able to decide what messages you want to have um, present to you at any particular time. Um, the messages that I hear in the music today, in the hip hop music today, are certainly a reflection of the lives of the people who are presenting them. But from an industry standpoint, it's almost as if they're only investing in and magnifying a very small subsect of blackness that ultimately then represents blackness to the majority of other people, which I think is,
right. And we
you
see
know,
that, and we see that in other media. We see that in films. We see that in television. For a long time, the way in which the Black community was represented in the news, or on television, as in those crime dramas, or even in humor, but we were all buffoonery, so it's not just exclusive to the music industry for sure.
Mm. It's not exclusive to the music industry. It is part of capitalism. And capitalism doesn't have a heart. It's not compassionate. It doesn't feel. There's no empathy. It only serves uh, it only serves itself, and it's all about making money, bigger
Hmm.
bottom line. And
Yeah.
that is where I have beef, right? Because as an artist, um, I feel like what my goal is to inspire, it's to move, it's to touch people, it's to share the better parts of humanity. Um, and I look at the landscape of media, from news media to television shows to film to the music. And I feel like it all is really reaching, it's like a race to the bottom, reaching for our most primal and basic instinct of fear
Mm-hmm.
and churning that fear as much as it can to squeeze every dollar out as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, is something that we as artists must be concerned with, aware of, and to try to protect against, because I don't want for my art or for art in general to constantly be the victim of capitalism. When young artists
Okay.
ask me, what can I do to be like you, or how can I build my career, I just really try to suggest to them, if you really love art, just do the art. If it
Mm.
doesn't pay your bills, get a job. Because if you are engaged in art as a career, y- you want to continue to love your art. You don't want for the the stress of life to start to color what you choose to do for your art, or
Yeah.
compromise the way that you decide to do your art.
Yeah.
I thought, from watching the example of Mr. B, how he, once he became politicized and active in movement, how he was able to use art to tell the story of the underdog, and to use his art as part of the movement. And not every artist is going to want to be an activist,
Mm-hmm.
but not every artist. Um, but I also feel that every artist should be protective of their art and not a victim or a pawn of capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. And as it relates to hip hop, I used to say to my daughter, who's now a young adult, but when she was, in her teenage years, I used to say, is it the beat or is it the lyric? Because if it's the beat, then the lyric can be changed to something more positive or something. I mean, it can still be edgy. I mean, listen, I'm no saint, but I did sometimes. It was just like horrifying to see at some of these, parties when your kids are very young and the parents are still sort of quasi chaperoning on the edges, and you hear the songs that they're listening to because you're wanting to give them as much autonomy as possible. It's like, oh no, somebody turn that off,
A lot of times, a lot of times young folks aren't really worried so much about the lyric and how striking it is, in the way that we are as parents. I mean, I
True.
grew up with hip hop. I grew up listening to some of the most horrendous kind of poetry that you could imagine, in terms of what was being discussed, from the
Mm,
violence and misogyny, and the sexual content.
mhm.
But you know,
The videos weren't quite that depictive though in those days either.
they weren't. Some of them
Quite
were.
as
Some of
much.
them were, and some of them weren't. Depends
Yeah,
on
yeah.
which. If you're watching
True.
MTV versus the box, or
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
true, true,
different video programs. But
true.
what I want to say is that, it's not as striking to the kids, to the young folks. For them, it's a bit of rebellion. It's a bit of, this is my culture. This is what we do now. But I look at it from a holistic perspective. If
Yeah.
you're eating fast food every day, you're consuming this quality of food. Your body becomes this quality of food.
Mhm.
And I think about your brain in the same way with visual and audio content. If this is what
Absolutely.
you're consuming, then this is what your mind is becoming.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's arguments for it and against it, but ultimately, if you become desensitized, not normalized, and completely, you know, uh, habituated to this kind of language, these kinds of thoughts, these kinds of ideas, um, I I don't believe that you're really fully valuing your humanity or the humanity of others. And I feel like appropriate place and time, right?
Right.
So let's say like on public or radio, commercial
Mhm,
radio.
mhm.
Um, they generally have a clean version of songs. They bleep out certain
Right.
offensive words.
Mhm.
But if the entire message is offensive and just the one bleeped out word is what you're focusing on, people are still getting the message,
Right.
right? And so I think
It's
there's
like the burger
something
with no
to,
fries.
to discuss here about appropriate place and time and the way that television shows have, ratings and they put certain shows
Right.
on later
Right.
than earlier.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so interesting, and it's so influential because I was feeling the same thing. I was like, it's all good about being rebellious and hearing it like once, and they're not really focusing on it. But when they do hear it over and over and over again, it becomes part of the daily diet and the message. So we are 18 days from one of history's most important elections. And I rarely like to bring in dates when I'm doing things like this because we want to be able to have them in perpetuity and play forever. But I'm going to do it anyway on this one. Um, how are you feeling?
I'm hopeful. I've I feel that there have been so many people who become politicized who are
Mhm.
ready for their vote to use their voice as their statement. And I think that we are going to have the kind of leadership we need in this next vote. I,
Mhm.
I believe there's going to be a transition of power. I believe that we are going to have a new Senate. I believe that we're going to have from local measures like new open-minded lawmakers who recognize that there are huge struggles and challenges, and this pandemic has certainly opened up a wound that or ripped the scab off of a wound that has yet to heal. And
Mhm.
we just need to do some real soul searching and real work to make sure that the most vulnerable within society are looked after. This is the job of government. Um, and what ultimately happens is that the money talks.
Yeah.
Everybody is looking out for themselves. You get into, politicians get into politics to be a public servant, to help, and to make the kind of changes that they dream of when they were dreaming of getting into politics. But then when they get there, they recognize that things move a little bit slower than normal. And then
Yeah.
they get, it seems to me, they get a bit complacent, and it seems to me that then, the other forces, the capitalistic forces come in and start to say, hey, well, you've established this as your lifestyle. If you'd like to keep this lifestyle, I can help you keep this lifestyle so you don't have to go find another gig.
Right.
If you just make some decisions on my behalf, and I'll give you a billboard. And so, as the citizens, as people, as the constituents, we're kind
Yeah.
of up against, trying to raise our voice up against the mighty power of money, and how money can influence every single individual, and some individuals who have, you know legislative power.
Yeah.
So we
I mean,
just got to.
I too am very hopeful. I'm finding a lot of hope in a lot of folks are doing a lot of really great things. Coming to, especially during coronavirus, I've seen a lot of people like the Kennedy Center bringing this programming to everyone. Bringing music to folks. Music is such a healing um, medium. It's such an opportunity for people to take a pause and listen to, get lost in a song and get lost in the lyric and the rhythm and the vibe. And I too
It's
am
like
very
what I
hopeful.
always say,
Yeah.
music doesn't turn off. Like, after you stop listening to a song, it's still in you. It's,
Yes. Yes.
most, a lot of media is that way, but music so much more.
So tell us a little bit about some of the new music that you're doing, if you can.
This latest record that I released October 2nd is called All Love Everything. The title refers to leading with your heart, having
Mm,
compassion in everything you do, and finding love in your art, in your work, in your relationships, in your relationship with the ecology. Just using love as the basis for how you make your decisions and how you go about processing your relationships and your interactions. It's very much more deeply personal than my previous work. I'm speaking about my experience as a father. I've got two beautiful kids, so
yes,
I've
you
been a father
do.
for 7 years now, and my experience as a
Beautiful
husband.
partner.
I've
Yeah.
been married for 10 years. And so these are stories that ultimately I couldn't put on the previous album because I hadn't had the full depth of the experiences yet. And now I'm comfortable telling these stories and opening up a little bit.
That's so beautiful. Will we hear any of that?
Yes, I'm
Or
gonna play 2 more songs and they're from the album.
all right, so why don't we listen to those 2 more songs and then maybe just come back and we'll wrap up the segment. Is that cool with you?
That's fine.
Awesome. So excited.
Yeah, so the first song that I'll sing is a song called My Way. This is a song about self-determination. It's a song about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and just going for your dreams, no matter what the obstacles are that are in your way. And, quite often you'll be your best cheerleader. And so I try to write the songs that can be the soundtrack to you living your best life and going for your goals. This is My Way.
I've been sad, I've been lost, I've been down and out and lonely. Yeah, I've been suffering at a job in a world that tries to own me. But when I wake up in the morning, there's an image of a better place. Yes, cause the harder that we grind, then the sweeter is the glory. People say I'm foolish. People say I'm blinded by faith. But if I run out of air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. I can make it through this. You can throw the world in my face. But the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Hey, I'm gonna do it my way. Hey, I'm gonna do it my way. So put me down and criticize me with your lies and with your parody. Yeah. In the darkness I don't hide, cause I got pride that gives me clarity. So I still wake up every morning with the vision of a better life. Because the option of defeat is just not written in my story. People say I'm foolish. People say I'm blinded by faith. But if I run out of air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. I can make it through this. You can throw the world in my face. But the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Hey, yeah. I'm gonna do it my way. Hey, I'm gonna do it my way. Every time they build a wall around me, I'ma tear it down and say, gotta live my dreams. I'm gonna live my dreams. Even when the floods rush round to drown me, I'll just hold my breath and pray, let me live my dreams. Every single one of my, I ain't quitting none of my dreams. People say I'm foolish. People say I'm blinded by faith. But if I run out of air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. I can make it through this. You can throw the world in my face. But the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Let me fly through the air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. Cause the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way.
So this next one is called Hold On Tight. This is a song that I wrote with my kids in mind, thinking about them, several years away from adolescence, but in that time where they're going to need to have a song or an idea of someone who's there to support them no matter what. And I feel like as a parent, I want them to have this song in their mind and in their hearts. These words of comfort and of solace that no matter what's going on in their lives, I'll be there and their mom will be there to help them. Where's your smile gone? 'Cause it don't shine no more. There's a light on, but you don't open the door. When you're ready, you can tell me what's wrong. Now, I've had trouble and there's no hiding that. If you're struggling, let me know where you're at. Life gets heavy and that road can be long. When the rain comes and the sky's falling down in your darkest hour, when there's no one around, it won't be long till your pain's gone. Just hold on tight to me. Hold on tight, hold on. When you feel like crying, go on and let it out. Just remember, the sun is shining behind the clouds. It won't be long till your pain's gone. Just hold on tight to me. Hold on tight, hold on. Sometimes a worry can get the best of us, and I understand how you could lose your trust. Let me show you that here is where you belong. I could be your shoulder to cry on. You'll find comfort in my arms. I could be your shelter on solid ground. When the rain comes and the sky's falling down in your darkest hour, when there's no one around, it won't be long till your pain's gone. Just hold on tight to me. Hold on tight, hold on. When you feel like crying, go on and let it out. Just remember, the sun is shining behind the clouds. It won't be long. Keep your head strong. Just hold on tight to me. Hold on tight, hold on. Thank you.
Oh, Aloe, what can I
Thank you,
say?
Gina.
You're so generous in your spirit. Your music is so uplifting. It's so healing and soothing and compassionate. I just really deeply appreciate you, and I'm so glad that you chose to incarnate the same time I did, so I could be blessed and have your music at my fingertips.
Thank you, Gina. Likewise.
And also gonna do it my way. I love that. I love that song. It's so great. I love how the melody, how you go also into your falsetto in there. It's just so beautiful and so inspiring. And I think a lot of people are going to be turning to your music right now because it is those things. It is so healing and it is so soothing. And I think a lot of people really are searching for that and looking for that and wanting that so very much.
Well, that's my goal and my purpose. Thank you so much. I'm very happy that I have this opportunity to use my voice to lift people up.
It's so great. It's so great. So, for those of you listening out there, this is the amazing and fabulous Aloe Blacc. We've spent the last 50 minutes or so just chopping it up and listening to his beautiful artistry and his music. Sankofa.org has many times partnered and collaborated with Aloe Blacc, and I know that we will continue to do that. And I just wanted to know if you have any last thoughts for any of our listeners, anything that you want to encourage anyone to be doing or.
Absolutely. I think this most recent election, this race, has really elucidated a lot of the ills within our system. Let's organize. And if you in any way are feeling like um, you know, massive change needs to happen. It doesn't just end on November 3rd when you voted and, you know, a leader has been chosen or leaders that you've voted for have been chosen. It starts on November 4th trying to figure out, okay, how do we make sure that we continue to have the leadership that we want in the next coming elections, that we're fighting for the right measures for our local jurisdictions, and just being politically active on a daily basis, not every 4 years. Let's make this a cultural habit, and recognize all of our individual but collective power.
That's beautiful. And I would add to that. And what I would add to that is if there's opportunity for you to be of service, please do so. If there's an opportunity for you to be kinder, please do so. If there's an opportunity for you to be more generous, please do so. And for us to come together in community in a beautiful way. And once again, Aloe, thank you so, so much for all that you do, all that you contribute, the kind of service you bring in your artistry and just as a human being walking this planet. And I look forward to the next time and the next opportunity that we have to bring some music to uh, this audience and others.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me, Gina. It's really been a pleasure.
Absolutely.